Hello. Today's tips and tricks episode is side panels with generic inquiry. So, what is a side panel is a good place to start. A side panel is an area on the right side of a generic inquiry that gives more information about each line returned by the generic inquiry. So you can think of it as a way to drill down into the details about each line without having to actually leave that screen. So let's look at an example. So for today's examples, I've created a very, very simple generic inquiry that I'm calling vendor with SPs for side panels. However, uh, what we will notice when we get there is that that's a bit of a misnomer because there are no side panels. There's nothing in particular over on the right hand of the screen. However, we do have a very simple set of results of the vendor ID and the vendor name. So this is a very simplified version of what you would see if you went to the the payables vendors landing page. You see the vendor ID and name, along with a lot of other information that I'm not putting in mine simply for space and simplicity. So let's go ahead and add a side panel to it and make this name a little more appropriate. So we do that by coming down here and choosing the navigation tab. Now, what do we want to put on here? Let's say we wanted to see all the bills that were associated with each vendor. So one way to do it would be to go to the bills and adjustments screen. It is itself a generic inquiry. It's one of the landing pages. And we could filter by the vendor or sort by vendor name and see all the bills associated with that. But we'd have to keep kind of bouncing back and forth between screens. So let's just go ahead and add it as part of the vendor name, the vendor screen. So we come over here and we go down to navigation targets and add a new record. We're going to make it a side panel. And we're going to look it up and we're going to find the bills and adjustments screen. And again, we want the PL, the landing page. And now there's one more step we have to do in order to line up the vendor with the appropriate bills. Just as in a generic inquiry, when you have multiple DACs, you have to relate them. Here we also have to relate this generic inquiry that's the base of it with the side panel we're adding. So we come down here to navigation parameters and we click the plus and we get our choice of a lot of different fields. We're going to pick the vendor account CD from the bills and adjustments. And then there's going to be a parameter we're matching this with, which is the account CD from the vendor RDAC that's used in this generic inquiry. We can save this. And now if we view the inquiry, we should see a side panel over on the right. And indeed we do. Note this vertical area on the right here. And it's got a little file folder insignia and bills and adjustments underneath. And so if I click on that, we will see the bills for, notice this says AA services, and here AA services is highlighted. If I now arrow down to the next one, notice that the name of the vendor keeps changing, and the bills appropriate to that vendor are showing up. Now we can still, if we want, drill down into a specific bill, but we can just see the listing to start with. So some of these don't have bills, some of them have multiple. So a handy way to kind of peer into another area, the bills and adjustments for each vendor. So I hope you have learned something from this demonstration. And if you have any questions or want to know more about implementing Acumatica, give us a call. Thank you.